Holly with Missouri River Soap, and I am kicking off our autumn soaps. The first one I'm going to make this year is an apple cider essential oil soap, and in this container here is my apple cider lye solution, and it went through quite an interesting transformation, and I will insert a video here so you can see how it looked mixing it up. So I'm going to go ahead and put this lye solution into my base oils. It is at room temperature, which today is about 70 degrees. So all is well with the lye solution. I'm going to go ahead and strain it just because it was a little frothy, foamy. It seems to have gone away with the most recent stirring. But I thought I'd go ahead and strain it just to be safe since it is cider. I did strain the cider originally. And this is just apple cider, not vinegar. Not vinegar. That can confuse some people, especially in other countries, I do believe. I think we call our apple cider, which is different than apple juice, but it's also different than vinegar. So I do believe this is going to make it fairly dark. Hopefully more of just a tan, you know, once we get it emulsified. I am loosely following a recipe by Jan Berry, the Nerdy Farm Wife. So you can Google apple cider soap and Jan Berry, and I'll also try to leave a link down below. I'm going to tap out the air bubbles out of the shaft. The apple cider has sugar, and that sugar is going to create bubbles in the soap, which is going to feel amazing. The lye solution with this cider did have a bit of an odor. It wasn't a strong ammonia. In fact, it was one of the more pleasant smells that I've had working with, you know, various liquids throughout the years. I am not going to add in any milks with this batch. I'm just going to let the cider do its thing. Anything also with a lot of sugar can cause the batch to heat up a little bit. I think it'll be okay. I've worked with like honey and goat milk and haven't had those accelerate or heat up too terrible much. So this is just going to be a very simple, natural batch. Now, something to keep in mind, this is my essential oil blend for this entire batch. It's less than 1 ounce. And this makes 40 bars, and I cut my bars a little bit thicker. They're about 5.5 to 6 ounces each bar once they're cured down. So having less than 1 ounce of essential oil is actually it's quite a little amount, you know. But cinnamon and clove essential oils that I'm using have a very, very, very low usage rate. We're talking 1/2 of 1%. So it's very low, and you have to be very cautious with it. I'm at a light trace, and I just wanted to make sure that it was fully blended in case the essential oils, since they're spicy essential oils like to accelerate a batch. So I wanted to make sure my batch is good and ready. Okay, so here goes in the essential oil. It did rise just a little bit where it hit the raw soap. So I'm just trying to make sure those little bits are broken up. Starting to get really nice and thick now. So I think it would be best just to get into the mold. This is going to be very lightly scented, and that's okay. That's what I was going for. It's just a very lightly scented, spicy fall soap, autumn soap. I know some of you guys think it's funny that we say fall here in America. I'm not even sure why we do that because it doesn't really make any sense. Fall what? Fall down? Falling leaves? Let's go with autumn. I'm trying to retrain myself into saying autumn. Let's go in with this luscious autumn soap. Now you don't want to mix in cinnamon or clove into a soap like this spices, you know, dry spices. They're very scratchy. I've even heard that some people they infuse cinnamon into oil, strain it, and then use the oil in their batch. Go smack this down on the other counter. So right now this is just almost identical to caramel. Maybe it's a hint lighter, but you know, like the caramel that you get for carameled apples if you buy it pre-made or what have you. A lot of times it's pretty light. I'm gonna make a little bit of texture here. In fact, it is very caramely at the moment, so let's smack this down real quick. Since it is so caramely like, just gonna kind of smush it around a little bit, kind of smush and drizzle. This so has me wishing it smelled like carameled apples. I love carameled apples. Always, always, always have loved caramel apples. What is your favorite fall treat? There's so many yummy, amazing treats this time of year. Well, it's actually not this time of year yet when I'm making this soap. It's coming up soon though. I'm gonna clean up my edges here just by putting a popsicle stick down the edge real tight on the edge. It just helps to create, well, one, a nice look. You know, it kind of just finishes off the whole shebang, but also when you, well, good gracious. But also when I take the paper off, I don't have this thin bit of soap that's kind of just breaking off and making a big mess also, because that can be a real pain. So my final step for this soap today is I do have just a little bit of cinnamon and clove in this little cup. I'm just going to grab just a little bit in my little tea strainer, and I'm just going to lightly sprinkle it on the top. It does not really bother the body of the soap, but if you're concerned at all, you can just make sure you give that a good rinse off. Anybody who's sensitive to spicy type scents, cinnamon, clove, I don't know, you may not, this may not be for you. I remember I used this soap from a fairly popular soap maker I won't name names, but it was a cinnamon soap, and I was like, boy, this does not feel right. And TMI, but I got out of the shower and my thighs were scalding red and on fire. They did not feel good at all. And I learned that day that I'm a little sensitive to cinnamon, but also kind of back then, before I started making soap, usage rates weren't really a thing that we all knew about. We kind of did 1 ounce per pound of oil. We didn't have a lot of, you can only use this much cinnamon, you can only use this much clove. At least it wasn't something that was highly promoted. So, you know, really it's no fault of the soap maker, but it was over scented in that particular spicy holiday type fragrance. So I don't, you know, I don't have any problems with it in the long run. Of course I didn't, there was no problem. It was just my main reaction. I'm just saying that yes, you have to be very careful with cinnamon and clove, and there's also some people that are going to have issues with cinnamon and clove no matter how safely you use it. So just keep that in mind. So here we have the apple cider essential oil soap. It's looking delightful. I'm in love with this color. It's just so gorgeous. And I will see you back here for the cut. It's time to cut this apple spice soap. I can't even remember what I was calling this one, but this has such a lovely light scent. It's incredibly pleasant. Now, this is not a partial gel. This is just a discoloring of the soap that's quite natural from this process. These loaves were cut out of a slab, so this design would not come out like that if it was a partial gel. So anyway, my point is, it's had the chance to dry in because it's been a couple of weeks since I made it. So what happened is I cut most of my soaps, but I was also prepping for my my August release. And I set them aside and I thought, oh, I've done that already, good. And then I remembered, oh, hey, wait a minute, I didn't actually do the cutting video portion. So the top looks super nice. There's that light sprinkle of spice on the top. So these will fully discolor all the one color. These are some that have been cut already. I've cut 2 loaves already and part into this one so that they'd be well on their way to discoloring, so that when it's time for me to take pictures, they were already ahead of the game and curing. So that's the story there. I did this with all my fall soaps, so there's 5 total, but I think only 4 have videos. So actually it's a story with all of them, so it'll end up being a broken record in these videos, but it's true. And not everybody watches every video, so I want to just let everyone know. So I do save one of these in chunks for us to use and test out. And then I do keep the rest then get cut up for samples. And we do samples just as a, you know, free gift with the order. We don't ever sell them. That one's pretty small, so we'll just leave it be. So here we have a full loaf, and it just totally looks like pie crust with cinnamon and sugar on it. Did you ever do that? That was like our treat on Pie Day. And not Pie Day like the mathematical situation, but like apple pie and any kind of pie really. So we take the scraps and pie crust scraps, smear a little bit of butter on it, and then sprinkle it with cinnamon and sugar. And that was always such a great treat. Love it. I used to be quite the pie maker. And my grandpa always said that your first pie was always the best one that you'd ever do, pie crust. But I got pretty good at making pies, but then I've been making pies since, you know, I was really quite young. And I used to love to make banana cream pie. That was one of my favorites, but really what happened is I got into soap making and I pretty much quit baking. I used to make cinnamon rolls and cookies all the time. And I mean, when you have kids growing up, that's a big treat, but they haven't gotten anything much fun like that. There's special occasions now I do baking, so mostly Thanksgiving is the only time I make pies anymore. What's your favorite fall pie? Is apple pie your favorite? I love pecan and pumpkin. Those are my absolute favorite. Now I won't turn up my nose at a Sam's Club apple pie, I tell you that. Put a little bit of caramel sauce and some cinnamon on it. Oh boy, that's really good. Reminds me of the caramel apple tart that you used to be able to get from Chili's. That was always my absolute favorite. I love that. Now that goes back a long ways. We're talking, you know, 20 years ago that was my thing. So we don't really frequent Chili's anymore. But anyway, what's your favorite kind of pie? I love pecan also. So I usually make a pumpkin and a pecan pie at Thanksgiving. Alright guys, well this is the cut of the apple cider essential oil soap, and it does smell quite amazing. The color is just perfect. I love the sprinkles on the top from the spices. It smells amazing. It's just very light because the usage rate is so low, but they pack a punch too. So there's still plenty of scent even though it's on the lighter side. Alright guys, I'll talk to you later. Bye.